I recently won this at an auction. It's a French 1935A, the first of a pair of pistols adopted just prior to World War II. The other, the 1935S, seems to be much more common on the market today, despite production numbers being nearly the same. I specifically wanted the 1935A though, because it looks much more elegant. In fact, this is the predecessor to the SIG P210. And I specifically like the look of this example. These were Parkerized, then painted. So this looks the part of a well-used pistol. In my opinion, much nicer than one with a perfect factory finish. Though despite the finish, this looks to be perfectly functional. The safety works to block the hammer. The slide pulls back easily enough, though the release is a bit stiff. The trigger feels fine, mushy even, but it works. The magazine doesn't drop free, but it does release easily. Overall, this should be a good shooter. In anticipation of that, I did what I usually do with any new calibers, and I made a dummy round. One with no primer or powder. I like to use them to test the function as well. That's when I discovered this. The slide isn't going all the way forward. The end of the recoil spring guide is protruding from the front, and the rear of the slide is back about 1/8 of an inch. Now, admittedly I did ride the slide forward a bit. I know some of you out there noticed, but a pistol should still chamber around under these conditions. I'll reload the dummy round in order to try it chambering with the slide release. It did close all the way that time, but getting it to open is very tough, much tougher than it should be. However, earlier when I had rode the slide forward, I had noticed something. I'll get it back to that state. Right here, this small oblong shape on the top of the slide is the loaded chamber indicator. It's in the same position as it was when empty, with it being almost flush to the slide at the front. It's supposed to work as a lever, with the front sticking up to show a loaded chamber, but I can't get it to move by pressing the back down by hand. I'll try with a punch. It's not budging. I'll try once again, this time pulling the slide slightly back. That got the front of it to pop up. And now the slide is forward all the way, flush at the back, and the recoil spring guide is covered. The loaded chamber indicator seems to be the source of the issue. I'll get it disassembled in order to get a closer look at how it's supposed to function, which is very easy to do. I'll pull back the slide while pushing the opposite side of the slide release. Then the slide comes off the front. And the contained recoil spring can be pulled out. And finally the barrel can be removed backwards. There's no barrel bushing. Despite that, the operating mechanism is very similar to the 1911, though there's 2 swinging links instead of 1. But back to the loaded chamber indicator. It's located here, at what would be the top of the chamber. The part closest to the firing pin looks to be almost flush. If a punch, with its sharp edges, sliding down the breech face isn't enough to push the lever open, it just slides off. Then there's no hope of a cartridge, with its rounded off rim, being able to do so. Instead, as the cartridge was being chambered, they used a loaded indicator almost like a ramp, preventing the pistol from going fully into battery by sitting in front of the indicator. It should work like this, which is awkward to do, to get the cartridge and the indicator into the right position by hand, since they don't want to do it themselves. But when a cartridge is chambered properly, it should look like this, with the front end of the indicator sticking up. I suspect the loaded chamber indicator is worn or bent. It makes no sense why it would be a ramp like this. There should be some sort of edge below the firing pin hole that the cartridge uses to push it up. I'll need to remove it. I'll get the slide held securely in the vise. I need to drive out this tiny pin. But before I do so, note how the loaded chamber indicator seems to bind up. It doesn't move easily, which I'm sure doesn't help things. That actually came out much easier than I expected it to. I'll get the rest of the loaded chamber indicator components out. The indicator arm itself, then the spring. Besides these marks at the top of the slide, the indicator doesn't seem to be bent or misshapen, but the front face of it is rough. The marks on the top of the slide look like they've pushed a burr right here. I'll very lightly clean up these surfaces in the hopes that improves the operation of the loaded chamber indicator. With the burrs removed and the rough surfaces cleaned up, I'll reinstall the loaded chamber indicator, starting with the spring. Then the indicator itself. It's tricky positioning such tiny pieces, but I'll get it held in with a punch. Actually, the punch feels a bit undersized. It can move up and down more freely than it should. I'll replace it with a better fitting drill bit shank. The hole in the indicator is a bit oversized, so it will move up and down, just slightly though. But it will tilt up freely now. I'll get it turned over in the vise to see if it works any better. Sliding a punch down the breech face will get the indicator to work as expected. But is there enough of a lip there for a cartridge to do the same? I'm pushing it tight against the breech face, and it looks to be working. The indicator arm is being pushed upwards by the case. Despite a successful test, I'm not sure if it will work the same with rounds being fed from the magazine. It would take the smallest of a gap between the cartridge rim and the breech face for it to slip over the indicator, preventing the pistol from going into battery. I'm not sure if this small lip here is enough. But before I try and modify what's here, I'll get it reassembled to test it out. I'll replace the drill bit with the proper cross pin. And though the sides of the slide are curved, I do feel safer using these pliers wrenches to press in the pin over a punch and hammer. I'm just making sure the corner of the jaw isn't damaging anything. The indicator is free to move. I'll remove the slide from the vise so I can reassemble the pistol. I'll add the barrel, then the recoil spring, and then the slide to the frame. I'll get it in the correct position in order to add the takedown lever / slide release, which can be pushed in with the slide pulled back slightly. It's functional, but will it chamber around and go fully into battery? First, I'll ease the slide closed. The slide is fully closed, and the indicator, the front of it is up, just like it's supposed to be. I'll unload in order to test again. This time I'll use the slide release to chamber the dummy round. Again, the front of the indicator is up, so it looks to have worked properly once more. I suppose that the small lip on the loaded chamber indicator, as well as getting it able to move freely, was enough to get the pistol working. And I already have everything I need to get this shooting. Brass, bullets, and the dies to load them. I used them to make these. Just 20 rounds to start off with, 10 at a low starting load, and 10 slightly hotter. But I'll just start off with one. Looks like it fed just fine. And shot fine too. I'll load up some more. Looks like the loaded chamber indicator is down, and the slide isn't all the way forward. I'll try again. This time it's a failure to extract, with the next round jammed in there. I'll try and get these out. Then I can finish off the last two in the magazine. These rounds feel pretty weak. I'll get the chronograph set up. The military loading fired the same bullet weight at around 1,000 feet per second. I'm not looking to match that, just come close. That's pretty far off, but like I said, this is a low starting load. I'll try the rounds with a few more tenths of a grain of powder. That's averaging a good 100 feet per second hotter. Looks like another failure to extract, with the next round stuck again. This time though it drops free, and a push on the slide grabs onto the spent case and ejects it. I'll load up the last 2 rounds. So how did it perform? Out of 20 rounds, it looks like only once did the case slip ahead of the loaded chamber indicator. That resulted in the problem seen earlier, the slide not going forward all the way. It could have been a fluke, or it could be the remnants of the problem, which still persists intermittently. But before I do anything with that, more testing is needed. Slightly more concerning were the 2 failure to extracts. But again, 2 out of 20 could still be a fluke. The slightly hotter ammo felt better, though that doesn't always come across easily on video. It did throw the cases out, while the starting load brass seemed to trickle out and land at my feet. According to the chronograph, I could load them even hotter, up to around 950 feet per second. Sounds like a good goal to reach for. More to come regarding this pistol. Thanks for watching.